Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our daily get-together here on Facebook Live every morning at 10:30, where we get together and talk about the latest headlines, stories, tips, adventures that we can share with one another to make our lives here in Puerto Vallarta more interesting. Occasionally, we share opinion. Occasionally, we share polls like the one that I just activated. And occasionally we have a good time. No, I'm just kidding. We always have a good time. And it's always great to connect with people that come here every single morning or most mornings of the week. And it's also great to connect with new people that are discovering the broadcasts. If you are new, my name is Paco. And if you write the word new in your comment, then we will be able to welcome you properly. Also, if you have a question, it helps a lot if you put the letter Q before your question, because there's a lot of commenting going on, people exchanging tips and good ideas and so forth and so on. As always, it is great to see regular folks that join us. Linda is in the house. Claude is in the house. Good morning, Cluster. I love you, Claude. You are so wonderful, because Claude is one of those people that I'd seen him at places. I'd seen him at Hotel Mercurio because he is a regular client, but we never had a chance to talk. And then the other day, we just struck a conversation, and I realized it was him, and it was like saying hello to an old friend. It really was. So it is nice that we're developing new friendships here at Coffee and Headlines, and it just feels good. Terry in Nueva Vallarta, it's always great to see you. It's nice to know that it's cool this morning over there. We had a little bit of rain overnight, which helped everybody sleep. I certainly hope everybody had a good night's sleep. And I see a lot of hellos. Apparently, it was more of a thunderstorm in Mezcales, according to Judy Roy. Down here, it woke me up. I just heard a little bit of rain. I didn't hear much thunder, but of course, the weather, we know it changes from neighborhood to neighborhood. Certainly here in Puerto Vallarta, it does. That is so funny. Cloud mentions that I trimmed my beard. Someday I just wish I would get rid of it altogether, but then this stuff is just, I have all my coronavirus here. I've been eating so much. Anyhow, Versalles is the foodie neighborhood in Vallarta, and that's precisely why I wanted to know how acquainted you are with Versalles, because I love Versalles and I want people to get more acquainted with Versalles. And I'm seeing from the results, and I will publish the results in a little while. I'm going to wait to see how many people join us this morning and participate. But it looks like some of you know it very well. The vast majority of you don't know it well. We're going to hope to change that here at Coffee and Headlines. Let's see. Trucha is in the house. Hello, Trucha. It's great to see you. It's great to see everybody here. Diana Salcedo says, good morning, heading to Puerto Vallarta this Saturday. I hope your travels are safe. I hope it is a good trip. And I hope that whatever brings you to our city will make you happy. And I hope that you will take good care of yourself during your travels and take care of those that are with you. Sherry asks, where is Versalles? Versalles is a neighborhood here in Puerto Vallarta. It is right across from the hotel zone, or one of the neighborhoods that is across from the hotel zone. And it is a neighborhood that is becoming increasingly popular. Where is my mute button? I may have to mute this because I think I may have to sneeze in a minute. Anyhow, it is a great neighborhood with great restaurants, and it's mostly residential. But of course, now the condos are starting to move in. But it is a great neighborhood for a local English speaking person because you can walk to a lot of shops. You are in a residential neighborhood, so it feels like home, but it's not boring as some residential neighborhoods are so residential. There's really nothing for you to do. Anyhow, I will be talking about Versalles a little bit. Shameless disclaimer, it's easy for me to talk about Versalles because I am just one block away from Versalles. So I have to start with some neighborhood that is nearby. Anyhow, Jules lives in Versalles. Awesome. I'm just right across the street from Francisco Villa Avenue in a neighborhood called La Vena. So I spend a lot of time in Versalles. Anyhow, the news today, my goodness, everybody's fighting. Everybody is having a difficult time with the news, and we're going to talk about a couple of ballroom blitzes that are going on. We're going to talk about airlines that are starting to renew their schedules and their routes. Some of them include Puerto Vallarta. And we're going to talk about other interesting news that are going on. And I see mention of a restaurant that I don't know in Versalles. So I'm going to have to try that one out. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Anyhow, let's get started with the news because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And we'll come back to the poll after the news and before the headlines, or maybe after the headlines. After the fun headlines. I don't know when we're going to look at the poll, but let's start with the news. Okay, to explain this, just a little bit of background information. As we know, our governor has been very proactive in terms of taking care of our state in his own way and has made some decisions regarding how we take care of ourselves as it relates to COVID-19 that do not necessarily always align with the federal guidelines. We know that at the federal level, we have Hugo Lopez Gatell as the spokesperson for the pandemic. He is a scientist and he has a position in the government. Well, a number of governors have not been seeing eye to eye with Dr. Lopez Gatell. And yesterday, our governor, Enrique Alfaro, put out a video in which he pretty much cut to the chase and accused Hugo Lopez Gatell for trying to stop the economy here in Jalisco for political reasons. What he did is, well, first of all, it's been 2 weeks since, or maybe 3, I don't even remember. It's been 2 or 3 weeks since our state has been in the red, according to the federal guidelines. And there are a number of states that are in the red. And let us pause and remember that if a state is in the red, the only things that can be open or available is essential stuff. That is only supermarkets, drugstores, and that's it. It's like us back in April or March. I don't even remember when. But do you remember when everything was closed? Okay, if a state in Mexico is in the red, according to the federal government, everything has to shut down. So what happens 2 weeks in a row, maybe 3, Hugo Lopez Gatell and his health advisors have put the state of Jalisco in the red. And Alfaro said, I will have none of this anymore. And what he did is he took all the graphs that Hugo Lopez Gatell had produced in a video showing that there are a number of states that are in the orange, which is slightly better than being in the red, and yet they have morbidity rates and all kinds of statistics that are worse than those in Jalisco. And this is challenging to look at and challenging to appreciate because we know Lopez Gatell is a scientist, and maybe there's a little bit of a politician in him, whereas our governor is a politician, and maybe he is surrounded by scientists. So it's like if I went to Lick's Ice Cream and I said to Kathleen, "Well, you don't know how to make ice cream because your ice cream doesn't taste the way I want it to taste." I mean, what do I know about ice cream compared to Kathleen and Todd? And that's a silly example, but that's essentially what's going on. So Hugo Lopez Gatell has not responded to this video, which was published yesterday on the governor's Facebook page. But of course, the video made national headlines. I just showed you this one because it has a nice, pretty picture on it. But pretty much all the major newspapers in the country reported this fact. Meanwhile, we had reported a few days ago that there's 9 governors. It was 10, but then we found out that one of them didn't even know that he was being included. But there are 9 governors that have very openly challenged Hugo Lopez Gatell and decided to go and complain and write a letter and decided that he should be fired. All these governors, or rather, some members of the government team in Mexico met with the government secretary or the secretariat. They went to the government secretariat and had a meeting with members of the government secretary. And what happened at this meeting is that the governors that attended were looking for ways in which the stoplight was modified such that it was more in tune with reality. And it must have been an awkward meeting because the meeting included governors of several states, and the governors have what is known as the National Conference of Governors. It's an association. So the Secretary of Government said, yes, we will meet with you, but we can only have 2 governors per party. So there's always some kind of political undertone in these meetings. Also present at this meeting was the mayor of Mexico City, Claudia Sheinbaum, who has seen things, who has been at odds with Hugo Lopez Gatell for a long time. And aside from the government's Hugo Lopez Gatell was also at this meeting, and the director of the IMSS hospital, his name is Zoe Robledo, and he has also been at odds with Hugo Lopez Gatell. So one way or another, this has to have been a really awkward meeting. So what was the outcome of the meeting? The outcome of the meeting was that the traffic light, the stoplight that is being used to determine where each state is in relationship to COVID-19 is going to be shifted to be used only as a reference point so that states can make decisions along with the federal government and not directed by the federal government. What does that mean for us when our own state has had our governor going, playing by his own tune or dancing by his own tune? It is really unclear. We have to remember that our governor, Enrique Alfaro, indicated that he would be delivering further guidelines as to the risk factors and how they relate with the opening or not opening of other types of businesses. And he had said last week that he would give us some kind of information about this on Sunday, and that was 2 days ago. So we haven't heard anything else from the Jalisco government as to whether, and I know that some of you are wondering, well, when are the bars opening? When are the movie theaters opening? When are this and that type of business opening? We still don't know. In other news, I told you about this former worker here at our municipal offices that was busted molesting a child. And he was sent to jail for 6 months and then for another 6 months while this is being investigated. And this is good to know because our government has said we have no tolerance for sexual abuse of minors. Of course, you have to love our news sources, because one news source said that he was sent to jail for a total of 6 plus 6 months, that would be 12. And another one said that he was sent to jail for 6 plus 3 months, which would only be 9. So I say that only so that you can have an appreciation of what kind of challenge yours truly goes through when I try to find accurate information to share with you. It is not always easy. A lot of times it is challenging indeed. Something else that is important, particularly if you have young ones going to school, the Education Secretariat has pretty much said that there will not be in school education this fall. This in the beginning of the school cycle in Mexico will be 24 of August, and it will all be um, um, it will not be uh, in person. Sorry about that. It will be through TV. The federal government is looking to create alliances with our commercial television networks so that every child can go to school through TV. I also read somewhere that some radio stations are going to be giving classes in some of the uh, more traditional languages that are still used by some uh, Mexican communities that don't speak Spanish. In case you are wondering, in this particular notion, our governor, Enrique Alfaro, decided he would align with the federal government um, as far as the school cycle is concerned. So if you have children, be ready for them to be around the house during the fall. Be ready for them to be taking classes. And I'm sure that if you have children, you have better connections with the education system than I do, and you will know exactly what's coming. In other news, I read that our president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, hopped on a plane from Mexico City to Guadalajara, and he's going to be traveling by land to go from Guadalajara to Tepic, and then he's going to visit Sinaloa, and then he's going to travel to Baja California Sur, and this is part of his going around the country and seeing what's going on. There's no specific information as far as to what he is hoping to accomplish in this particular trip. We know that Nayarit is a state that has been under a lot of pressure because of COVID. We know that Sonora is a state that has had problems with violence in the past. I don't know what's going on specifically right now. And we know that in Baja California Sur, the use of face masks has become mandatory, at least in Los Cabos. So I would imagine that his meeting or his travels have to do either with COVID or with violence, or perhaps both things. One more bit of news before I stop and take a quick look at your remarks. We learn from the World Health Organization that there may never be a silver bullet for COVID 19. He said this after 6 months of us dealing with this pandemic. His statement says something along the lines of, even if we find a vaccine, we're still going to be living with all these new habits for quite some time, so we'd better get used to them. Let me go back to the big picture. Ooh, it's hot this morning. And take a quick look at some of your comments to see if there are any specific questions that I can address. Let me take a quick look. Comments. Hello from Canada. Hi, Lori. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, or any morning that you're here. Lots of comments about different restaurants in Versalles. That's wonderful. Dun, 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 dun. I slept quite well, Thomas. Oh, let's see. Good morning from Boston Subway. Paul, you are too funny. Are you coming to Puerto Vallarta soon, Paul? Your comments seem to indicate that you'll be in Puerto Vallarta sometime soon, because you were asking about chiles en nogada and all kinds of other things. Um, Let's see. Thank you very much for that remark, Michael. We had a really good time doing Sunday Fun Day. And Claude asks about Paul's sight. Paul had eye surgery, as you know, and he's in this wait and see, no pun intended, moment in which he just needs to let time go by before and let his eye heal to determine what's going to happen. So he's patiently waiting, but he's doing good. Um, Devon says, if anything, Alfaro is making a case for pushing the button when states reach the orange level. I don't think so, Devon. And again, I'm not going to agree or disagree with you because again, I'm not an expert. I'm just relaying the news. I don't think our governor wants to push any buttons. In fact, I think that one of the reasons why the government of Jalisco as a whole is now pushing this notion of this new campaign of wearing a face mask with such intensity is to prove the point that wearing face masks as a preventive measure can cut down transmission rate by a high percentage. But again, I am just speculating as much as you are. But we'll have to see. I mean, I think a lot of information will become clear once the governor decides, okay, so what is going to be the scenario like if we actually do push this emergency button. And let's remember that our state is the only state that has an emergency button. Other states may have other mechanisms, but to the best of my knowledge, we are the only ones that have it. Let's see. It is common sense to realize that. Boom, 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 boom. I don't see any questions. I see a lot of comments, so I am going to skip through this. I see that Paul is coming to PV on August 24th. I hope I get a chance to meet you, Paul. Can you sneak a Pizzeria Uno pizza frozen in your luggage for me, please? Just kidding. Well, this is good to know. Send my regards, Jose Luis, to whoever that was. Let me continue with the news. And before I continue with the news, let me tell you that these news are violent in nature. By sharing these news, I don't feel good about watching people beating the crap out of each other. Not in a movie and certainly not in real life. But this is what's going on. And it has a slightly humorous side to it. And it has a slightly troublesome side to it. And with that said, let me go back to the little picture and go back to the next headline to show you something that happened in Mexico City. In Mexico City, minivans are used to transport people. They're used as public transportation. You can either take the bus or take the subway or usually take a minivan. A minivan is usually slightly faster and not as expensive as a taxi cab. Well, in this particular minivan, apparently a man jumped in while the minivan was waiting in traffic, and the passengers that were in the minivan decided they would not have it and started beating the crap out of this would-be thief. And there is a video of it, which I watched. The video is called Happy Ending, which is, of course, it's never happy when somebody gets violent with somebody else. But they ended up beating the crap out of this man, removing all his clothes, throwing him out of the van, and leaving him naked on the street, just like that. And it is, I mean, karma's a bitch. You can think it was funny. You can think it was a ballroom blitz. And no, we're not going to play it. Or maybe we will play our ballroom blitz sound effect. Anyhow, it's sad and challenging when citizens, civilians just start taking violent recourses to themselves and start, claiming justice. And then there was another one in this eatery. It was also caught on tape, on video, that this man tried to rob other people, and he was surrounded by people that were hanging around, and he was beaten the crap out of. And again, these things make me worry because once we all start deciding, okay, we're going to apply justice, violence ensues, and we've seen what happens when violence ensues. I will celebrate, however, the creativity of this musician who, in less than 24 hours, created a cumbia or a parody song based on the minivan guy, and he went ahead and recorded this track featuring himself playing different instruments, and he called it 17,000 whams. So I'm going to leave all these links here so that you can take a look at them if you feel like you want to. If you don't, I don't blame you. Again, seeing graphic images of people hitting one another it's not for everyone, and it's certainly not fun. Let me take a quick look at your comments before we jump into the weather forecast, the headlines that are leisurely, and of course, our poll about Versailles. Let's see. Should we believe a scientist or a politician? Well, I've always thought that when it comes to viruses and diseases and stuff like that, we have to believe scientists. But there's always a little bit of something in this particular regard. All I know is that for better or for worse, Hugo Lopez Gatell has been the person that we've relied on. I mean, what would happen if Anthony Fauci was dismissed from the United States? I mean, who would replace him? Who would look after all the work that he's doing? Is there anybody that is as qualified or better qualified than he is? Are we looking at a systemic fault in our government or any country's government? And how could we blame the government because we're dealing with something that is new, that has never happened before? I mean, we never had a coronavirus before. So again, these are deep and powerful questions that we may or may not be able to answer. Before we jump into leisurely stuff, let me just show you that 58% of you don't know Versailles very well. And 10% of you said, is that the name of a new restaurant? It is not. Colonia is neighborhood, and Versailles is the name of the neighborhood. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Versailles in the days to come. Just wanted to let you know that before we jump into our next headline. But even before we jump into our next headline, let us jump into the weather. And here we are, 27 degrees Celsius, feels like 30. It is 81 Fahrenheit, and humidity is not as bad as yesterday. It's only 86%. We have an 18% chance of rain today. And the weather forecast tells us that we will have rain until the evening. Tomorrow it'll be humid and mostly cloudy through the day. And on Thursday, again, it'll be humid and mostly cloudy through the day. And moving on with less important but equally amusing headlines, we had talked about how in Mexico we don't have, what do you call them in English? Karens. We don't have Karens and Kens. And we don't say so long Felicia to anybody because what we have is lords and ladies. And the latest lady is none other than, drumroll, Lady COVID, who was this intoxicated woman who went on board of a plane and took her face mask off and turned her phone on and started doing a selfie video and just started, carrying on saying, we don't believe in COVID and we don't give a shit about COVID. And it took some wrestling to get her off the plane. And now, of course, she was not allowed to take the flight. And I'm sure that in a day or two, we'll find out what her name is, and her Twitter account will be totally shamed, and so forth and so on. And maybe, as it often happens, she seemed to be from South America, I think, because she had an accent. For all I know, she'll end up having her own television show in her country of origin in a few months, because that's what happens to a lot of these people, believe it or not. Moving on, it was interesting and good to learn that United Airlines is resuming some flights, almost 30 international routes, including routes that connect with Puerto Vallarta and Los Cabos. This will be happening in September. Um, it is always a good time to look at special sales. If you're looking to travel back to Puerto Vallarta, go take a look at United Airlines' website. You never know what's going to be available there. So more specifically, there's going to be service from Denver to Cabo San Lucas and to Puerto Vallarta. We're going to have flights from Chicago and Los Angeles as well. So this is something that some of you may get excited about if you're planning on traveling back to our city. Netflix is in town filming a series. If you remember, we mentioned how the Puerto Vallarta letters that were at the Malecon were being given a little bit of a facelift because there was some filming production that was going to take place here in town. I assume this is the production they were talking about. So this is something called Stockton, and it is a series about a United States family that is crossing the country from north to south. I try to look for the series or any indication of the series online, and I couldn't find any specific information about it. But of course, it's always good when our city is showcased in films and television series because it somehow brings awareness of it. Speaking of television, we talked about the new Lower Decks Star Trek series, which is beginning to air this week on, I believe it's going to be on CBS All Access. This is the first time we see an animated Star Trek series. Actually, not the first one. I believe there may have been one in the 60s, but this is a brand new animated series. Lower Decks has to do not with the glamorous first rate officers that are on command, but actually the little people that work in the lower decks and how they keep everything at bay and working properly on a starship. This is supposed to be very, very funny. We looked at the preview the other day and it looked funny indeed. And the last headline that I have to share with you before we move on to your final comments has to do with the fact that sea turtles are invading, and I love using the word invading, the beaches of the state of Michoacan. Needless to say, with less people being able to enjoy the beach throughout the country, all the Pacific coasts where sea turtles tend to come once a year to hatch their eggs. Apparently, they're getting between 3 to 7 species of sea turtles, and there's not that many photographs to enjoy here. But look at this beach; it is just plagued with turtles, and I think it's a beautiful sight. Let me take a quick look at your last minute comments and questions just to see if there's anything that I can answer for you, and. There's a good question here. Does anyone know if we can still drive up to Canada? I heard that you can, but then again, I'm not doing that trip. Hopefully, Laurel, somebody will chime in and answer your question. Mark says that they'll be here on the 22nd. Yay. Terry comments that it was considered essential 1 month ago. I would think that she thinks it would still be allowed. Hopefully this will work. Thank you for that remark, Devin. I was having a great conversation with Devin yesterday, and I have to tell you how he pushed my buttons in the best possible way. Devin is an educator, and he was commenting on the tools that I use to put together this broadcast and how it is really awesome to learn new tools to connect with people, and just using technology in general to tell stories and share news is something that I thrive on, and it's just really wonderful to see other people using technology to connect with others. Let's take a quick look. You can only cross Canadian border for essential emergency travel or own property from the USA side. Again, it's important to check these things. Jorge recommends a special on uh, chiles en nogada going on at Café des Artistas. Um, and let me take a quick look. Patricia Silver says, Hola Paco Ojeda. Patricia, we have an interview uh, to discuss. We haven't scheduled anything, and I know that the ball's in my court. So let's try to get you on the show sometime soon so you can tell us how your vocal festival is going on. Lots of great comments on Versailles. Uh, can I post a map of Versailles with all the restaurant locations? I am working on it. I'm working on a series of Versailles surprises, Sue, because there is a lot of stuff to enjoy in Versailles, and much more so every single day. Um, Oh, what a nice comment, Charlene. It's great to be able to take your homesickness for PV away. If there's anything that you miss in particular, just let me know, and I'll try to keep you up to speed. Why are turtles such a big thing in Mexico? Well, for a couple of reasons. They've been coming to Mexico for millions of years as part of their mating ritual and as part of their own self-preservation. And number two, it turtles, sea turtles are endangered species, so of course they are a big deal here in Mexico. A lot of hotels and special turtle camps have programs in place so that when turtles come to our beaches to lay their eggs, that people will not poach the eggs because this is considered illegal and it's very much frowned upon by the law and by the government. Hello, Lisa from Illinois. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope we can be of service to you, and I hope you're drinking something wonderful, be it tea or coffee or perhaps a smoothie. Um, what is the status on the new road to Sayulita? Good question, Dave. I can tell you what I know, but I haven't been up that road in quite some time. The government of Nayarit has been very busy, or had been very busy, expanding the old road to Sayulita to 4 lanes. In fact, expanding it to 4 lanes through the whole state for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is feared that once the new super fast highway from Guadalajara to Puerto Vallarta gets finished, and that could happen, any decade, it is feared that a lot of the communities that are only accessible through the old road will be not forgotten, but not as easy to get to. So the government of Nayarit has been busy trying to expand that highway. The last time I went through that highway, I saw that there were some stretches between Puerto Vallarta and Las Varas that were already widened, while others were still in the process of being widened. And that's about as much information as I have. I can always check with my buddies in Riviera Nayarit to see if they have anything more specific. And I don't see any other. Oh, yes, there is a new group called La Versalles, and this is a group of restaurants that have gotten together to cross promote one another. And this is a Facebook group, and it's going to continue. I spoke to one of the chefs involved in the project, and for now, it is just an awareness kind of thing. But as restrictions start to lift and people feel more confident that it's okay to go out, they want to start creating specific events to promote their restaurants together. What they've been looking for in this Facebook group is trying to cross promote without fear of promoting somebody else's restaurant and so forth and so on, which is something that a lot of businesses tend to be afraid of sometimes. But here it's a group of restaurants that decided, I'm going to promote you and you're going to promote me, and it's going to be a win-win for everybody. And this is, I think, a good place to stop because we've gotten to the end of the news. There's a lot of things on pause, a lot of things on hold. We need to see what's going to happen with the way the federal stoplight is modified for us to be able to abide to. We're still waiting to see what's going on with additional opening of businesses here in the state of Jalisco. Our governor spoke about it and he hasn't delivered. It'll be interesting to see if there's a specific response from Hugo Lopez-Gatell about this very, very open accusation coming from our governor. And our governor just wants something very basic answered. If our state doesn't have numbers that are as bad as other states, why is our state in the red? Again, we'll have to see what happens. This is the telenovela that we're living in. But in the meantime, go and have a great Tuesday. I'm going to go have a great Tuesday. I'm going to start walking around Versailles. Yes. Oh, the blinking. I read somewhere that now that we're all wearing face masks, knowing how to blink is a helpful thing. And it made me wonder, are there people out there that don't know how to wink or blink or whatever you call it? Anyhow, I'm going to be winking and blinking at people to see what happens. I hope nobody beats the crap out of me. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day. I thank you so much for joining me in conversation and for sharing your ideas and comments and suggestions with me. They nurture my morning every single day. And if you found something wonderful, helpful, funny, inspiring, or otherwise useful, consider supporting Coffee and Headlines. This is a community based project. And if not, at the very least, please let other people know that we're here. Let other people know that we're having a good time. In the meantime, stay happy, stay healthy, stay curious, stay kind, and stay patient through this very crazy time that we're living in. Have a great day.